I'm going to start today with a disclaimer and a story. The disclaimer is that I'm going to talk about a personality type test called the Myers Briggs, which is awesome. You'll notice that some people get really extreme with personality tests and use them as an explanation for everything. And the reason that I'd like you to know about this is because it's such a great tool to just have in your pocket. And at the same time, use it with a grain of salt. This tool will really be useful in some areas, and it's definitely not like an end-all, be-all. So here's the story of how I discovered the Myers-Briggs and why I think it was so useful in my life. So, back when I was in college, I was a resident advisor at La Maison Française, which was a French-speaking residence hall. And we were like a hyper-productive house. Every week we had meetings, and I had like fill in the blanks on the meeting agenda so that people would remember what they were committing to. We had a crepe party for the whole campus, and like we each spent an hour like over a weekend flipping crepes, so we had enough for everybody. We just did a lot, and really everything that we did was focused towards a goal, towards speaking the language, and towards like creating programming for the campus. By the end of the year, I was totally exhausted, did not enjoy being a resident advisor, and was just ready for the year to end. Then I went across campus and visited my friend Stephanie, who was an RA in one of the sorority houses. So I walked in, was just hanging out with her for a little while, and while I was there, one of her residents came into her room. And they just sat around chit-chatting about nothing in particular. Stephanie gave her a hug, she gave the girl a video to go watch, and that was it. But I left and was just thinking back on that interaction and realized the way that I interact with my house and the way that I lead the group that I'm the resident advisor for was completely different. And so it just got me thinking, like, what could I have done over the past year to be a little bit more like Stephanie with her friendly, relational approach to getting stuff done? So I decided, at the last minute that I would be an RA again for a second year. And then in the training for that RA year, we did the Myers Briggs personality test. And mine came back as an ENTJ. The letters will make sense a little bit later. But basically, what it told me was that one of the areas I needed to be really careful was that I tend to prioritize getting stuff done over the people who are doing it. And I just kind of sat back and was like, oh, that basically totally called it for me. That's exactly what I did. And now what can I learn, with this information? How can I round out my leadership style? So in the next year, I ended up being the resident advisor for a section of 36 freshman boys. It was crazy, but so much fun. And basically, I completely changed my schedule. I made sure I didn't have any classes until 1 o'clock in the afternoon so that I could hang out and have fun, baking Rice Krispies and stuff, like you do in freshman halls, and just experimented with what my leadership style would look like when I was aware of some of the flaws that I had experienced from my first year. So the Myers Briggs gave me a lot of insight into what my strengths were and what my weaknesses were, and really helped me to just develop some more skills around managing those. So because I had such a great experience with learning about the Myers Briggs and really developing my own self-awareness, I wanted to share it with you. So let me tell you a little bit about the Myers Briggs. So the Myers Briggs test is based on 4 different polarities. And for each polarity, you get a letter. So I'm going to tell you what all of the polarities are, and then I'll explain to you a little bit about how the letter system works. So the first polarity has to do with where a person focuses their attention. And you're either an introvert or an extrovert. This has nothing to do with social introversion or extroversion. Really, it's just where your attention is going. So introverts tend to focus on the internal world, the world of ideas and impressions, where extroverts are thinking, well, their attention is out. They're focusing on the outer world, on people and on things. The next polarity has to do with the way a person gathers information. So if you're on the sensing side of the spectrum, you're very, your senses are very alert, you're anchored in the here and now. Most of your information is coming from your real experience in the world. If you are on the intuitive side, you tend to be a lot more theoretical. You gather a lot of information from patterns, from possibilities, And so, the here and now is important to you too, but you're also thinking about the future, just different ways that pieces of the puzzle fit together. The next polarity has to do with the way a person makes decisions. If you are a thinking person, you tend to base your decisions more on logic, on analysis. You really like to know cause and effect. Whereas if you're a feeling person, you tend to base your decisions more on values and on your subjective assessment. The final polarity has to do with how a person deals with the outer world. So if you're a judging person, you really like things to be planned. You like organization and you want things settled. If you are a perceiving person, you like to just go with the flow. You don't need to have all the details nailed out. You can be more spontaneous. So each person who takes this test falls into one of 16 categories. For each of the polarities, you'll end up with a letter. So you will either be an I or an E. For the second polarity, you'll have an S or a N. The third will be a T or an F. And the last is a J or a P. So once you have your four-letter combination, you can put that into Google and you'll find a lot of cool stuff. So I wanted to wrap this video up with a little bit about what you are going to find online. So all of the Myers Briggs tests that are attached to the bottom of this blog post, they're not the real test. The real test is something you need to pay for, but there are a lot of smaller tests that are, pretty accurate as far as telling you what the original Myers Briggs would tell you. So my highest recommendation to you this week is to go online and take maybe 2 of those tests and just compare your answers, and then Google it and do some research. And I think that what you'll find is that there are a lot of websites that will show you what some of your strengths are, what your best areas of working in a group are, what some of your leadership styles are, and then it will also tell you about some of your edges, some of the areas where you will need to work just on your leadership style and really just on yourself if you want to be the most effective as you can be, either as a leader or working with other people in a group. So the more that you go on, like in work and in different situations, the more you'll hear about Myers Briggs. So if you become familiar with it now, you will be ahead of the game, and it's just a great tool to become aware of and to start using. So I hope you have a great time playing around with it, and thank you for watching.